Quorum Radio, baby.
I mean, kind of like this time of year, Bill McIntosh, I'll bring you on right now. This time of year, there's all kinds of rumors and theories and ideas. I mean, we've had several guests on talking about the JFK assassination. Here we are 53 years down the road, and we still don't, we really don't have an answer. And, you go, why is the government withholding information that we should have had released to us a long time ago? What do you think?
Yeah, sure. It seems like they've got first of all a warm Thanksgiving to everybody. I do think that's a valid concern. Maybe it's not as easy as it seems, but there's just I do understand. Of course, being one of your producers, I do set up interviews, and the other day, of course, we heard Lamar Waldron talk about there's still lots more pages, about 1.5 million pages left to release.
Right. Exactly.
But they haven't made quite a bit of progress. Years. So there you go, man. But but I can say this: 52 years ago, it was one very sad Thanksgiving in America. A week after the death of President John F. Kennedy, like him or hate him, it was a very, very sad and mournful time when that happened, and a lot of questions came up. And shortly thereafter, we saw, for example, that Drew Pearson was a very, very well-known columnist at that time. Just had a huge microphone, huge platform. He published in the Washington Post a column about the Secret Service agents drinking shortly before they woke up.
Yeah, they were up all night. They were up all night. They were up all night.
Well, sort of. Well, I think they got some sleep, Bill, but that's not that far off because apparently even the Warren Commission found out that these guys were hungry. They oftentimes worked double shifts, 16 hours. Oftentimes you didn't get very much to eat. Gerald Blaine, who wrote about the White House detail, said, besides bullets and shoe polish, I carried a couple of bags of peanuts just in case, because it's just getting a meal with stuff. So what happened was after, I listened to our interview of Clint Hill a couple of years back in 2013, and Clint said, we tucked in the president and Mrs. Kennedy, and we ran off and went to the Fort Worth Press Club to get something to eat. Well, as it turns out, apparently the kitchen was closed, and some of this, of course, came out of the Warren Commission reports, and then subsequent reports, and a lot of diligent journalists found out the facts. And apparently, no food, but somebody drank some alcohol at the Fort Worth Press Club, and then they went down the street to a little place that has the unobtrusive, kind of a low-key name. Of the Cellar Coffee House, which doesn't sound like much. It kind of sounds like a place in Florida, Bill, where you could go and pull in and get a sandwich and get a cup of coffee.
And it wasn't owned by Jack Ruby, so you're okay.
Well, yeah, but so speaking of Jack Ruby, this is the type of place you probably would have been happy buying because there were the waitresses scantily clad. I mean, we're talking about a place that was very racy. This does not at all, comport to what you would think is the Cellar Coffee Shop. I mean, it was like kind of an all night hangout.
It was more cellar than coffee shop. Is that what you're telling me?
Oh man, it was crazy. It was a place where you go in there and you say, hey, these guys are not going to be content to have a little bit of fruit juice, even though Fort Worth at that time was a dry city, but. The fact is that, the owner of the establishment later said, he came out and said, look, I served a hell of a lot of booze there because that's just the way it was. They got around it. They served some fruit juice, and then they poured something in there. It was a heck of a lot stronger than fruit juice. They had something that they call Everclear, about 90% pure grain alcohol. And this is like, white lightning on steroids. Yeah. And this is the type of thing
you could light up an entire city with that stuff.
Oh my gosh. And let me tell you something. Bill, this is the fact is the Cellar Coffee House. These 6 agents went in there, among them Clint Hill, among them people like Paul Landis and Jack Reddy was there, and these are people that were tasked with the first family. Right. And now the thing that I consider I talked to Abraham Bolden yesterday about this whole thing, and he was a Kennedy.
Well, that's an incredible story in and of itself, and I'm glad you brought his name up too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Let me tell you what he said. He said, "Look, Bill, when I was just on the detail at the White House for a month. He was a Secret Service agent for a couple of years, but." He said, look, the biggest problem I ran into, and I'm quoting him, an article that was in I think, Vanity Fair, he said, the biggest problem I ran into with the Secret Service was when I was an agent was their constant drinking. When we would get to a place, one of the first things they would do was stock up with liquor.
Wow.
They would drink, and then we would go to work. I mean, and Seymour Hersh, okay, who broke a lot of big stories, My Life, for example, and he wrote the book Dark Side of Camelot, he's told by agents that boozing got worse and worse each year under the JFK administration.
Was this because of stress or just the times and that sort of thing? I mean, because to be on a Secret Service detail, I mean, and the demands of it, we're not talking, an 8-hour a day job. I mean, if you talk about lifestyle, you're committed to this deal.
Yeah, it is. It's got to be a stressful job. At that time, I'm sure it was a stressful job. But part of the problem, I think, is JFK himself. I mean, JFK was considered very telegenic, but he was also a very reckless guy. And this was a guy who basically, many would agree with me, I think, who knew him, that he was kind of out of control with women, and it created a laxity in. Well, he said
he said he was addicted, or not he directly himself, but what was reported.
Right, and so what this ends up doing is it creates a complete, let's say, work climate that is not conducive to people being on task and being focused and coming in on time and being ready for whatever comes up. So now you're looking at things. I want to tell you, though, draw your attention to a famous photo, the James Algen photo. I call it my Exhibit B after Abraham Bolden. And the thing about it is that this is a photo that basically shows President Kennedy seen through the front windshield of the presidential limousine, clutching at his neck. You see Jackie's apparently her hand on his elbow. And this is like the smoking gun photo of the Secret Service agents, because they're there. Not that they used the gun against the president. That's a ridiculous rumor. But the thing is that they were looking around. They heard her shot. They were looking around, dazed and distracted. And then behind their car, which was called fullback, is you have the varsity car, the code name, and you have Senator Ralph Yarborough there with Vice President Johnson. And what does he say? And this is shocking. He says, some of the Secret Service men looked backward and to the right in the general direction from which the rifle explosion seemed to come. However, all of the Secret Service men seemed to me to respond very slowly with no more than a puzzled look. Knowing something of the training that combat infantrymen and Marines receive, I'm amazed at the lack of instantaneous response by the Secret Service when the rifle fire began. Later he cupped up a statement and said, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but for the protection of future presidents, they should be trained to take off, towards the president when a shot is fired. And I don't think that's what we got. And then later on, you had people basically stating, Jimmy Hill, the manager of the Cellar Cafe, said that, look, these guys, they were drinking, and they were basically
that numbed their instincts, huh?
Very much so, and even the agent in charge, James Rowley, admitted that basically Drew Pearson's column about drinking the night before was basically accurate.
Hey, Bill, we're going to leave the rumor right where it sits and where it will continue. Bill McIntosh, I'm Bill